December 31st, 2024, 11:59 p.m. The year ends. Across Ukraine's front lines, from Kharkiv to Kherson, the war continues. Explosions, artillery, drones, soldiers in trenches, commanders in bunkers, civilians in shelters. The year 2024 brought massive Russian offensives, human wave attacks, thousands of soldiers, hundreds of armored vehicles, daily assaults, frontal attacks, suicidal charges. Russia threw everything at Ukrainian defenses, trying to break through, trying to capture territory, trying to win before Western support solidifies. They failed at tremendous cost. The statistics tell the story. 1,300 Russian tanks destroyed, visually confirmed, photographed, geolocated, verified by open source intelligence. Oryx database, destroyed, damaged, abandoned, captured, 1,300. That's 3 to 4 tanks every single day. For 365 days, plus 3,000 infantry fighting vehicles, plus 2,000 armored personnel carriers, plus 1,500 artillery pieces, the largest armored vehicle losses since World War II. This is War Fist TV, where we analyze the battles that change wars. Because 2024 proved that Russian mass cannot overcome Ukrainian technology, tactics, and determination. The tank graveyards across Ukraine's eastern regions tell that story in burned steel and scattered debris. Hit subscribe. You need to see how modern defensive warfare turned Russian armor into the greatest vehicular catastrophe of the 21st century. Tanks are expensive. A T-72B3 costs approximately $2 million. A T-80 BVM costs $3 million. A T-90M costs $4.5 million. 1,300 tanks at an average of $3 million equals $3.9 billion. Just in tanks. Not counting other vehicles, not counting crews, not counting ammunition and fuel they carried. The economic cost is staggering, but the tactical cost is worse. Each tank requires a crew. 3 men, commander, gunner, driver. 1,300 tanks means 3,900 tankers. Killed, wounded, captured, missing. These are trained specialists, not infantry conscripts. Tank crews require months of training, years to become proficient. Russia is losing them faster than they can train replacements. The operational cost is strategic. Russia entered 2024 with approximately 10,000 tanks total, active service and storage, old Soviet stockpiles, T-55s, T-62s, T-72s, maintained somewhat. 1,300 lost in 1 year equals 13% of total inventory. At this rate, Russia exhausts tank reserves by 2026. Then what? They cannot produce tanks fast enough. Uralvagonzavod factory in Nizhny Tagil produces approximately 200 tanks annually, new production plus refurbishment of old stock. But losing 1,300 annually means net loss of 1,100 tanks per year. Unsustainable. The mathematics doom Russian armored forces, unless something changes. Tactics, strategy, or the war ends. Ukrainian defensive tactics evolved throughout 2024. Early war saw direct confrontation, tank versus tank, artillery duels, mobile warfare. By 2024, Ukraine shifted to defense in depth, multiple defensive lines, minefields, anti-tank positions, drones. Every kilometer of advance costs Russia dozens of vehicles, hundreds of casualties. The defensive system works in layers. First layer, reconnaissance, drones, electronic surveillance, observation posts, detect Russian forces early, track their movements. Second layer, artillery and long-range fires, HIMARS, M777 howitzers, Caesar guns, strike Russian formations before they reach front lines, disrupt, delay, damage. Third layer, minefields, thousands of anti-tank mines, TM62, TM83. Density reaches 5,000 mines per square kilometer in critical sectors. Russian vehicles hit mines, stop, become targets. Which defensive element killed most Russian tanks in 2024? A. Minefields. B. FPV drones. C. Anti-tank missiles. Comment your answer. Fourth layer, anti-tank guided missiles. Javelin, NLAW, Stugna P, TOW, positioned in concealed locations, covering approaches. When Russian armor navigates minefields, ATGM teams engage. 2-kilometer range, fire and forget capability, high kill probability. Fifth layer, FPV kamikaze drones, thousands deployed, cheap, effective, top attack capability. Operators sitting 3 to 5 kilometers behind lines, launching drones continuously. One operator can destroy multiple vehicles per day. Each FPV costs $400. Each tank costs millions. The exchange rate favors Ukraine. Sixth layer, close defense, infantry with RPGs, trenches, fighting positions. If Russian armor somehow penetrates previous layers, infantry finishes them. Close range, ambush, final stand. This layered defense proved devastatingly effective. Russian tactics remained predictable: frontal assaults, mass attacks, limited reconnaissance, poor coordination, artillery preparation followed by armored advance followed by infantry. Soviet doctrine from 1980s. Against modern weapons, against prepared defenses, the results were catastrophic. The major Russian offensives of 2024 demonstrated the futility. Avdiivka, February 2024. Russia committed massive forces trying to encircle the city. Week 1, 150 tanks destroyed. Visual confirmation, satellite imagery showed fields of burned vehicles. Week 2, another 100 lost. Week 3, Ukrainian forces withdrew. Tactically, to prepared positions west of city. Russia claimed victory, captured ruins, but the cost: 300 tanks, 1,000 other vehicles, 5,000 to 8,000 casualties killed and wounded. For a destroyed city with zero strategic value. Robotyne direction, summer 2024. Russia attempted to recapture territory. Ukraine took in 2023 counteroffensive. The Valley of Death. Narrow approach corridor, minefields on both sides. Russian armor funneled into kill zone. 200 vehicles destroyed in 3 weeks. The valley earned its name. Bodies, wrecks, destruction. Russia eventually made minor gains, meters, not kilometers. The cost vastly exceeded the gain. Stay with me. The next section reveals specific battles where dozens of Russian tanks died in minutes. Pokrovsk direction, autumn 2024. Russia's main effort, trying to capture the logistics hub. Cut Ukrainian supply lines. Massive forces committed. Over 150,000 troops. Thousands of vehicles. The advance was slow, costly, bloody. Ukrainian defenders used every weapon, every tactic. FPV drones swarmed Russian armor. Videos showed tank after tank exploding. Top attack strikes, turrets flying, secondary explosions. Russian tankers called their vehicles mobile crematoriums. Accurate description: survival rates were low. Estimates suggest average tank survival on Pokrovsk front was 6 to 8 weeks. From deployment to destruction or disabling, 6 to 8 weeks. Crews rotated faster, but vehicles didn't last. The specific weapons that killed Russian tanks varied by situation. Minefields caused approximately 15% of losses. Tanks hit mines, tracks destroyed, mobility killed. Vehicle becomes stationary target, follow-up fires finish it, artillery killed another 20%. Not direct hits usually, near misses, fragmentation, damaging sensors, optics, external equipment, rendering tank combat ineffective even if mobile. FPV drones caused 40% of confirmed kills, the dominant tank killer of 2024. Cheap, precise, deadly. Operators launched hundreds daily, hit rate 30 to 40%, but volume compensated. Thousands of strikes, hundreds of kills. Anti-tank guided missiles accounted for 25%. Javelin, NLEOBIA, Stugna P, long-range precision, top attack or direct attack modes, high probability of kill. Each missile destroyed or disabled a vehicle. The missiles are expensive, but less than the tanks they destroy. Other causes included direct tank versus tank combat. Rare. Ukraine preserved its armor, used it selectively. When they engaged, Ukrainian tanks often won. Better optics, better training, better tactics. But most Ukrainian tank kills came from defensive ambush, not offensive action. The human cost inside destroyed tanks varied. Some crews survived, bailed out before catastrophic explosion, captured, wounded, lucky. Other crews died, ammunition detonation, fire, turret ejection in T-72s and T-80s. The design flaw: ammunition carousel under turret. When penetrated, explosion throws turret tens of meters. Crew dies instantly. T-90M has slightly better protection, separated ammunition, blowout panels. Not always sufficient, but better than older models. Still, T-90M losses were significant. 32 visually confirmed destroyed in 2024. Each cost $4.5 million. Total, $144 million in T-90Ms alone, Russia's most advanced operational tank, destroyed by FPV drones costing hundreds of dollars. The asymmetry is staggering. If cost-effective defense defeats expensive offense, type Warfist TV in the comments. The psychological toll on Russian tankers was severe. Interviews with prisoners of war revealed terror. Every time we advanced, drones appeared. We couldn't see them, couldn't hear them until too late. One moment driving, next moment explosion, fire, screaming. Tankers who survived one vehicle refused to crew another. We were threatened, court-martial, execution, forced back into tanks. This is not war, this is slaughter. The refusal to fight became common. Russian military police enforced discipline, arrests, beatings. Some executions pour encourager les ordres. But fear of drones exceeded fear of military police. Tankers deserted, abandoned vehicles, fled. Russian commanders faced impossible situation, cannot advance without armor, cannot keep crews in armor when they know death probability is high, cannot maintain offensive without willing soldiers. The solution was replacing experienced crews with conscripts, mobilized men, 2 weeks training, minimal, into tanks, into combat, results predictable, poor performance, higher casualties, faster losses. The cycle intensified. More losses required more replacements. More replacements meant less training meant more losses. Downward spiral. By December 2024, average Russian tank crew had 6 weeks training versus 6 months standard, versus 2 years for Ukrainian crews. The quality gap widened. The disparity showed in combat results. Ukrainian forces reported multiple instances. Russian tanks driving into obvious kill zones. No reconnaissance, no caution, just following orders. Destroyed within minutes. Entire platoons lost, 10 to 15 vehicles, in single engagement. The waste was immense. Not just material, human, young men, barely trained, sent to die in metal boxes, for territorial gains measured in meters. The specific battles that exemplified Russian tank losses are numerous. October 12, 2024, near Vuhledar, Russian armored assault, 23 tanks, 37 other vehicles, advancing in column. Ukrainian FPV drones swarmed, 14 tanks destroyed in 40 minutes. Visual confirmation, drone footage. The remaining tanks retreated. Mission failed. November 8, 2024. Kurakov direction, Russian night assault, thermal imaging advantage. Or so they thought. Ukrainian thermal optics matched. FPV drones operated day and night. 17 tanks destroyed. Attack repelled. December 3, 2024. Chasiv Yar area. Russian attempt to cross water obstacle. Engineering equipment. Tanks for fire support. Ukrainian artillery pre-registered. Drone strikes followed. 29 armored vehicles destroyed, including 12 tanks. Bridge partially constructed then abandoned. These engagements repeated across the front. Daily. Different locations. Similar results. Russian armor advances, meets prepared defenses destroyed. Retreats if possible. Leaves wrecks if not. Answer B. FPV drones. Minefield slow and channel. Anti-tank missiles kill precisely, but are expensive and limited. FPV drones combine mass, precision, and economy. 40% of kills, hundreds of tanks, thousands of drone strikes. The mathematics favor the defender who can produce drones cheaply and use them prolifically. The production race between Russian tanks and Ukrainian drones reveals strategic imbalance. Russia produces approximately 200 tanks annually, mix of new production and refurbishment. Ukraine produces over 100,000 FPV drones annually, targeting 1 million in 2025. Each FPV can kill a tank. Not every strike succeeds, but volume compensates. If 1,000 FPVs strike tanks and 30% succeed, that's 300 tanks destroyed. Cost, $400,000 in drones. Value destroyed, $600 million to $900 million in tanks. The return on investment is astronomical. Russia cannot win this equation, cannot produce tanks faster than Ukraine produces tank-killing drones, cannot afford the losses economically or militarily. The satellite imagery of 2024 tank graveyards provides visual evidence. Before and after comparisons, fields that were empty in January, covered with wrecks by December, hundreds of vehicles, burned, destroyed, abandoned. The images circulate online: Twitter, Telegram, military analysis forums, open source intelligence, Oryx, Lost Armor, documenting every loss, geolocating, verifying. The database grows daily. 1,300 tanks confirmed. Actual number likely higher. Not all losses photographed, not all wrecks found. Estimate 15 to 20% more destroyed, but unconfirmed. Total losses possibly 1,500 tanks. The Soviet stockpiles that seemed inexhaustible in 2022 deplete rapidly. T-62s pulled from deep storage, tanks from 1960s, obsolete, barely functional, sent to front lines, destroyed by modern weapons. The desperation shows. The strategic implications for Russian military are dire. Tank forces are backbone of ground combat power. Without sufficient tanks, cannot conduct mobile warfare, cannot break through fortified lines, cannot exploit breakthroughs if they occur. Forced into infantry-heavy tactics, trench warfare, World War I, casualty rates increase, offensive capability decreases. The Ukrainian strategy succeeds. Bleed Russian armor, force them into unfavorable tactics, trade space for time and casualties. Every kilometer Russia advances costs dozens of vehicles, hundreds of soldiers, unsustainable losses. Eventually the advance stops, not from strong Ukrainian counteroffensives, from Russian exhaustion. Cannot continue. No reserves, no equipment, no will. The year 2024 ends with Russian tank forces 30% weaker than January, 1,300 tanks gone, crews dead or wounded, morale shattered, production inadequate, stockpiles depleting. The year 2025 begins with Ukraine stronger. More drones, more missiles, more training, more Western support, F-16s operational, Patriot systems defending cities, artillery ammunition flowing. The balance shifts, slowly, incrementally, but measurably. Should Russia continue mass armor assaults? Can they rebuild tank forces? Will 2025 see similar losses? Comment your analysis. Subscribe to Warfist TV. We document the mathematics of modern armored warfare. 1,300 Russian tanks destroyed in 2024. $3.9 billion burned, 3,900 tankers killed or wounded, 13% of Russia's total tank inventory eliminated in 1 year. The graveyards across Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, fields of twisted metal, burned hulls, blown turrets, evidence of failed offensives, evidence of tactical incompetence, evidence that Soviet mass cannot overcome modern defensive systems. Each wreck tells a story: crew that manned it, orders they followed, mine they hit or drone that struck or missile that penetrated. Final moments: explosion, fire. Some escaped, some didn't. The wrecks remain, rusting, monuments to futility. Russian commanders learned nothing. December 31st, 2024. Even as the year ends, attacks continue. More tanks advance, more drones launch, more explosions, more wrecks. The cycle persists because Russia's strategy hasn't changed, cannot change. Committed to offensive, must show progress, must capture territory, no matter the cost. So tanks roll forward into minefields, into kill zones, into drone swarms, and Ukrainian defenders wait with missiles, with drones, with mines, with determination. The mathematics remain unchanged. 3 to 4 Russian tanks destroyed daily, 1,300 annually. The graveyards grow, the stockpiles shrink. The war continues, and the lesson remains unlearned. In modern warfare, mass without technology is just mass casualties. Stay vigilant,